Hey, what's up guys, welcome to my humble YouTube channel where I bring you fanfiction that will brighten your days. Before we start, a subscribe is greatly appreciated, and don't forget to leave a like and ring the bell icon so you won't miss exciting new fanfiction stories. A Return to School, Tensura x COTE, by Asuryii. Chapter 5, Joined ANHS, already exploiting the loopholes. April 1st, the start of my school life at ANHS. I had spent the past few months having Kyo experience things he never did. I was very limited in what I was able to have him experience since he was being watched, but I did get to secretly make him experience some things that piqued his interest or curiosity. The more I showed him, the more curious he got. He truly does have a seemingly infinite amount of curiosity, but I don't blame him after all the circumstances he was thrown into made this curiosity make sense. I wanted to take him to an amusement park and throw him on a roller coaster to see if he'd make a reaction, but I was sadly unable to. The inability to throw him on a roller coaster made me promise after high school I am throwing him on one regardless of his decision. I feel like he'd enjoy it. Well, I say that in reference to him appreciating the sensations and the feelings you experience on a roller coaster or in an amusement park in general. I sadly had to keep up the appearance that he continued his training, but he didn't care, as he said. I won't have to bother with these tasks when we start school. They really are a pain, so not needing to do them unless I decide, it will be nice. A pain? You don't mean that in the sense that it's difficult, but more so seemingly pointless and a hassle. He makes little to no change in his expressions, but the look he gave me with a slight nod was very clear. Kyo is keenly aware that he has immense difficulty expressing things with his face, so he'll, sometimes make small gestures to clarify his intent. Not that it's needed for me, but it is appreciated. He is making an effort to figure out emotions. He may be able to perceive and understand emotions, but he is not good at expressing. Suppression and stress did add to the difficulty of this task, but the more he is able to freely do as he pleases, the more he'll become aware of things he wasn't. I have at times had to remind him he wasn't smiling despite thinking he was, but a piece of progress came up the last few months. He can, albeit very difficulty, force a very small smile, but as he says, I'd rather not waste the energy. Kyo really reminds me of Dino. If you said they were the same person, I may almost believe you. They're entirely different, just both lazy. But he's got jokes at times, though he thinks they're unfunny because I am usually dumbfounded at the fact that he made a joke when in reality they're really good. Usually. Rimuru. I can just imagine you playing a harp in an opera house with wind somehow flowing through your hair. I think you'd be able to get off as a girl quite easily if you tried a bit. I almost had a heart attack when he said that. I felt extremely depressed for a moment before I realized he said tried and we were in a music room. He really does accidentally, totally, make jokes that truly hit deep. And I see you easily playing off as a statue. Your point? Touché. It was an enjoyable few months, but now we start at ANHS and the beginning of this story is from public transport. Really lame start, but bear with it. I noticed quite a few of our classmates on the bus with us, which made sense considering we were headed to the same place. 3 people immediately caught my attention and Kyo in some regard, although for very different reasons. One was a confident blonde, a friend Koenji, a cool black-haired beauty reading a book on how to get away with murder, and a well-endowed female with short beige hair who tried to help an old lady get a seat from Koenji. I regret to inform you Koenji doesn't care at all what you think. I'm sitting by the window and I cannot give up my seat because Kyo is more than likely monologuing right now. I already know who this female is whom is trying to coerce Koenji into relinquishing her seat. She is Kusita Kikyo, who caused discourse and fighting in her classroom as she revealed all their secrets and thoughts about their peers to the whole class. Why am I aware, you may ask? An old friend Yuki went to her middle school and told me of a girl who destroyed her classroom out of pure jealousy and due to the fact of being a spoiled brat. But I also at a glance, even despite taking a moment to remember this tidbit of information, knew her type of person, her personality. I had immense experience with her type, so a glance was all it took, and as such I will never let her cause me any problems or tell her anything, as she is a two-faced bitch prone to throwing temper tantrums when she isn't the best or doesn't get her way. It's actually pathetic. Life isn't fair and you will not always be the best at everything. You should come to terms with that and use it as a motivation to better yourself and not as an excuse to act as you please in the manner she does. Any friends I do make will more than likely have zero contact with her intimately in any regard. I will warn Kyo in some regard, though I have a feeling he has already perceived her facade to some degree. Kyo, if you give my number to anyone at any point, I will fight with you in front of the whole school. You may be my brother, but that is something you don't do. I nudged him slightly and spoke as I saw his ears perk up slightly. I have no intention to. I'm more curious about who you've been referring to as my old friends. I know you said I'd know at a glance, but I can't help feeling curious. We ended our conversation there. I gave Kyo a warning on giving out my number. I had contemplated telling him about Kusida, but I ultimately decided against it. She could be a learning experience and he'd be able to handle himself easily, but should he need help, he's keenly aware I would support him. I really have no clue what Fuka has been up to, but I am excited to see her again. I intend to enjoy my school life as much as I can. I had a few bare minimum essentials sent into my dorm room with the permission and investigation of Director Sakayanagi. I asked to bring a few books I enjoyed reading in my pastime along with a few pictures I had framed. I really didn't bring much despite being told I could bring more as long as it was thoroughly inspected beforehand, but I had no need. Clothes were sent in, but only 2 outfits because Fuka would kill me if I forgot them. A clean pair of black dress pants, a slightly baggy white dress shirt, and black dress shoes to go with it. The second was basically the same outfit but opposite in color scheme. Fuka had bought me the clothes and declared if I showed up to ANHS without them she'd put her grandfather on my ass after she beat my ass. After a few minutes the bus came to a halt and people began to slowly step off and begin to walk onto the campus. But we were stopped abruptly by the black-haired beauty. You both were looking at me. Why? What a pain. She has a superiority complex, doesn't she? Well, Miss Cool Black-Haired Beauty, that sealed your fate. Fuka likes knocking overconfident people down a peg and looking into things she finds entertaining. I will be using this moment as a chance to entertain myself. Sorry. I guess I was just interested, is all. I mean, you didn't think about giving up your seat to the old woman, did you? Kyo spoke first and his reply didn't shock me in the slightest. The girl wanted to open her mouth but looked at me first before deciding to speak. I was interested in the book you were reading. Plain and simple, along with the fact your eyes reminded me of a friend of mine. Now if you'll excuse me, while I do find you quite attractive and your eyes intriguing, I have better things to do. I simply waved and sauntered past her, paying no mind to her. She looked like she wanted to say something but held back and continued speaking to Kyo for a moment before walking away. I looked back at Kyo in the eyes and gave him a small nod saying see you later, good luck, and he returned the gesture with a small acknowledging nod. The entrance ceremony was set in a relatively large gymnasium as the 160 incoming freshmen all lined up and listened to the words of gratitude from the principal. It felt like we stood in these lines far too long, but I held through and noticed some details as I observed the students. The students' attitude, posture, and overall demeanor was vastly different as I looked at the other classes. The farthest right class D class, most students weren't paying attention in the slightest and had a sloppy formation. The next class over C class had a similar issue, but they appeared more disciplined, and then B class, who stood to the right of my class, were much more disciplined, barely losing focus. Then in my class, class A, everyone was well disciplined, lined up orderly, and paying attention, almost everyone. Some green-haired kid ruined it. I stood in the first line at the back, which allowed me to peek over and observe other students and classes. The ceremony seemed to be coming to its end. A shot of relief shot across all the students as they could soon finally stop standing in these damn lines and move on. But the unexpected happened. Since all formalities are out of the way, I'd like to ask Class 1A student Rimuru Nava to please come up to the stage. As soon as I heard my name called, I sighed and resigned myself to the fate of having immense attention on the first day. I figured what I did would get some attention, but maybe in only my own class, not in front of the whole year. Rimuru here is the first person in the history of this school to receive 100s on all of his entrance exams. He also performed astonishingly in the interviewing process and displayed overall exemplary results. So as such, I would ask him to give a small speech to all of you before I allow you all to leave for your classes. I calmly walked to the stage, taking a deep breath, wishing I was informed of this possibility beforehand, but the director sure does like to fuck with me sometimes. I stood tall and held my head high confidently as I walked. I heard slight murmurs and exchanged words. I felt people's gaze fall on and off of my person. Some spoke on how difficult the test was, my achievements, status before coming here, and of the presence I displayed as I walked up the stairs and toward the microphone. I stood at the podium and looked to the principal, getting a nod signaling I was good to start. Hello fellow incoming freshmen, as you have heard, my name is Rimuru Nava. I was not aware I would be called up for a speech. I will not lie, but such as circumstances dictate. I heard a few snickers in the crowd and some casual chatter on my looks now, along with my acknowledgement of the weird situation. I didn't prepare anything for a speech since I was not informed I'd be giving one, but I digress. I can see you all want to get out of here and meet up with friends and whatnot, so I will make this short. A sigh of relief filled the crowd as I said I intended to make this short. I saw a few curious looks on myself. Mainly from Class A, but also a few in the other classes and a couple small waves. Just as the principal did, I would like to applaud you for being accepted into ANHS, but this is merely the beginning of our high school journeys. We will experience many plights and challenges, but they will be the things that define us going forward. I took a brief pause before continuing, ignoring the small tinges of praise I heard from the crowd. The past experiences we held from primary to middle school does not decide who we are. We decide who we are and will be. The past does not define and dictate who you are, you do. I'll be honest, I was unaware the entrance exam was difficult, so being the first perfect score is a major shocker for me personally. I hope to have a sublime and enjoyable high school life with you all and form new relationships and make new memories. Congratulations to the incoming class of 20XX. I look forward to experiencing high school with you all. Taking a small bow and giving a warm smile, I excused myself off the stage. The room was silent for a moment till I heard a round of unnecessary applause as they all failed to realize that they would be held longer being told to settle down. But I did appreciate the applause and getting to see the thoughts some people held of themselves as I called the test easy and mentioned past experiences. After a small speech thanking me for what I said, we were excused and headed to our classrooms. I soon arrived in my classroom, Class 1A, and walked to my seat where I was sat next to a girl with medium-length glossy purple hair that was situated with a side ponytail and her bangs swept to the side. She also had warm purple eyes that looked immensely bored but soon became curious as I sat in my seat beside her. "Hey, I'm Rimuru Nava. I look forward to spending the next 3 years as classmates." I spoke in a calm and confident tone while I gave a small smile and put out my hand to shake. She looked lost for a moment before she shook her head and looked at me in the eyes as she shook my hand slightly, but before she could introduce herself she absent-mindedly spoke. "Wow, your eyes are beautiful. I mean, I'm Masumi Kamuro. I look forward to being your seat partner for the near future, Nava-san." "Glad you feel that way, but feel free to call me Rimuru. I am much more accustomed to being called by my given name, or at the very least just drop the honorifics, they're a pain. Though should it make you uncomfortable, then so be it. But what shall I refer to you by?" I smiled awkwardly, knowing that calling people by their given names, despite not being very close, is a very rare thing. "Oh, okay. Rimuru-san. I'll call you that, or just Nava if that works, and just call me Kamuro." "That works for me. No need to force yourself. It's nice to meet you, Kamuro." It looked like someone was going to come up towards Kamuro and I, but before they could, our homeroom teacher stepped into the room. "Good morning, everyone. I will be your homeroom teacher. My name is Tominari Mishima. I'm usually the English teacher, but we don't change classrooms for each grade here, so I will be your homeroom teacher for the next 3 years. I hope to get along well with you all. It's a pleasure to meet you. Usually we do the entrance ceremony after going to your classes, but this year the director decided to change things up due to an unexpected achievement made by one of the students. Along with the fact this made it so you all got the boring bits out of the way first. So to get started, I will pass out the admissions guide and written materials with the school's special rules. ANHS was different from most schools in the sense that you lived on campus in dorms, you could not leave the premises, and there was no outside contact allowed unless you held special circumstances. Immediate family was no different, as contact was still not allowed. But to accommodate, the school was held with exemplary facilities on the campus, holding everything the students could need and more. The campus was 600,000 square meters in size, and to add to it was the school's special feature, the S system. It has a lame name, but who am I to judge? Mishima sensei passed out our student ID cards before he began to explain again. "So what I have handed out are your student ID cards. By using your card you can gain access to the various facilities held on the campus along with purchasing goods and more. Think of it as a credit card in a sense, however it is prudent that you pay attention to the points you spend. Your points can be used to buy anything on the school premises." A sound resounded out in the classroom as the words Mishima sensei said sunk in. As I peered around the classroom, some students held gazes signaling them being deep in thought, while others, like a green-haired boy, were entirely oblivious to the obvious hidden meaning in the teacher's words. He said, anything. And anything means not limited to but including everything from food and clothes to possibly grades and benefits. Though this is purely conjecture on my part from my experience plus the look and feelings I get coming off of Mishima-sensei, he meant that literally. But also held it to a moral standard. Your student ID cards are used by simply swiping them at the machine scanners. At the first of the month your points are automatically deposited. You should have received 100,000 points already. The conversion rate is 1 yen to 1 point. Keep this in mind. Gasps filled the room and my seatmate held wide eyes, but a few students felt suspicious. Mishima-sensei spoke for a few minutes, but he said a few words that stuck out to me in particular, making my suspicions all the more clear. Merit, evaluation, and value. These words stuck out to me clearly. Then I realized something. He spoke on monitoring students carefully, but they seemed to be far too lax. There was no way they'd be able to give 100% employment when some students seem clearly incompetent and don't fit in with the elite school vibe. But to add to it, there are 160 students in our year, and in each year making 480 students attending this school. Why and how could they give us 100,000 points each month? That'd be 48 million points a month, and 1 point is equal to 1 yen, which would be 576 million yen a year. Those numbers don't check out. The school wouldn't be able to function. We received 100,000 points based on our evaluation on entering the school. We are going to be evaluated going forward, and that will determine our points, whether it be private or class-wide. On how many points we get, I currently can't be sure. But oddly enough, I had 200,000 points. I can't risk getting in trouble if there was a mistake. Mishima-sensei, I have a question and something to say. Would you be willing to listen? Rimuru Nava. Yes, go ahead, ask away. First off, sensei, a mistake was made and I received 200,000 points. I felt the need to tell you rather than risk getting into trouble. But as for my question, how many points will we receive next month? Furthermore, feel free to call me Rimuru comfortably. Obviously we receive 100,000 points next month, didn't you hear? You're clearly not a class material. The green-haired boy has cemented himself as an idiot and someone who cannot read between the lines. Well, Rimuru, that was a great question, but I cannot answer. And as for the reason you have more points, it was wholly intentional, as your evaluation was set higher than every other student due to you receiving a perfect score on all your entrance exams. I hope that clears everything up. Thank you for clarifying that. I didn't wish to be held accountable if it was a mistake made and discovered later. But I have another question. Since you said we were evaluated to be worth 100,000 points for successfully entering the school, what is the evaluation criteria and what dictates the standing of an individual or class? Haha. Don't worry, the school wouldn't make errors in that regard, but once again I apologize, I cannot answer your question. Though should you have more, feel free to ask. One more question. Can I buy the answers to these questions? You stated that you could buy anything in this school, so shouldn't this count? Huh. Confused sounds filled the room from various students, but I also heard a few more noises like a weird laugh that went foo-foo. It was kind of off-putting. You are able to, but you yourself cannot. Does this answer your question? Yes it does. Duh. You sensei. You meant I myself cannot, but you are able to, meaning, there is something an individual is not in possession of but can acquire in some form, possibly as a grade level or class. Mishima-sensei didn't deny nor confirm my words, but that answered it all the same. Some other students asked questions, like a girl with lilac hair and a bald boy who bounced off her questions and my own to ask his own. Most questions remained unanswered, but that alone gave more intel. Soon the teacher excused himself and the girl with lilac hair and violet eyes walked up to the stand with her cane before she spoke. I am Sakayanagi Arisu. I look forward to the next 3 years with you all. I will be taking the role of this class's leader. I look forward to your cooperation. She wore a smug smirk as she spoke confidently. I could tell from her actions till now she was confident in her abilities, and I think she is Chairman Sakayanagi's daughter. That isn't important though. She gave me a curious glance, no doubt evaluating me highly and becoming curious of who I was and my identity. I disagree with you being the leader. I shall take the role of Class A's leader. I'm Katsuragi Kohei. I believe I am better suited to such a role. I nudged my seat partner while the green-haired idiot blurted out insults at Sakayanagi for her being unable to walk properly and that a leader needs to be physically capable among other things making her unqualified. When she looked at me I signaled to her to give me her contact info as she was 1 my seat partner, 2 seemed interesting, and 3 I wanted to go terrorize Kyo and see some old friends but I also needed to know the ending to this role decision. After getting her number I sent a small text saying to contact me if you need help and I began to walk out of the class. Where are you headed? The green-haired idiot spoke to me in an arrogant and irritating voice. I was already tired of him. I could feel someone gazing at me intensely but I ignored it for once as I had better things to do. Leaving. I have better things to do than watch you all fight like children over the leadership role. It's pathetic. It's easy to determine a leader. Your physical or academic ability has little to no meaning in this regard. It is more about being able to make a decision confidently, concisely, and being able to guide others. But furthermore, you are an embarrassment, greenhead. Your words and actions are unbecoming of a high schooler and you are undermining this class's students and this school's reputation with how you are acting. I turned fully around now facing him directly. I looked him dead in the eyes and let my face and gaze grow cold and emotionless. He sweat dropped a bit before I spoke. Now I will say this once and only once, so let me make it clear for you. I don't care what you think or who you are. I have known you for all of 10 minutes and you have already sat yourself as a worthless piece of shit in my eyes. Back the fuck out of conversations you have no experience in and sharing your opinion in, but also don't you dare fucking question me again like that. Your arrogant superior attitude is already getting old. My opinion on the leader of our class at the moment is that neither of them are suited, but Sakayanagi seems more knowledgeable in this regard than Katsuragi. This though is purely conjecture based on the little I know of them. I would say they'd be better working together but I don't care to deal with children arguing. Now I will be excusing myself, I have better things to do. Turning away from the silent room I exited and began to walk towards D class where Kyo and Koenji happened to be situated. Coming to the D class one saw a few students exiting quickly but I saw most were still there though. Knocking on the door I got their attention and received looks from the whole room. Hi, how can I help? I'm Harada Yusuke. We were just doing introductions. A boy with blonde hair and brown eyes looked towards me and spoke with a smile. Ah, nice to meet you Harada. I'm Rimuru Nava from class 1A, call me without honorifics comfortably. I just came to see some acquaintances and my little brother. I apologize for interrupting your class's introductions. He just warmly smiled towards me and waved it off saying it's alright and I saw Kyo in the corner trying to hide away while Koenji wore his usual smirk while he admired himself. Yo Kyo. How'd your introduction go? Ah, your face says it all. Well, give me your number so we can talk later or communicate if you need anything. Rimuru, once again I am not the little brother. If anything, you are the little brother. Kyo sighed heavily as he exchanged numbers with me, probably not enjoying the sudden attention he just got but he knew it was necessary. We can agree to disagree. Until the day one of us admits that the other is the older one we can stay like this, after all we have no idea who was born first. Hey Koenji, how are you doing? Ah ha ha. Rimuru boyo, I am perfect as always since I myself am perfect AHA. I have a feeling on what you intend to ask and the answer is of course and I did. Koenji laughed as he spoke in an extremely expressive voice to say the least. Never change. Koenji, never change. Let's check things out later and discuss things for old time's sake. It's been a while since we had a conversation. Yes, of course it has been a while. I suppose I do not mind conversing with you at a later date as you are nearly as perfect as I. I will send you the recording you asked for now. Thanks Koenji. If you need something I'll do what I can, so let me know. You two know each other? A random girl who seemed slightly familiar in some regard asked. Yes, I had the pleasure of getting to know Roku-chan. Koenji here. We had engaged in many conversations about business and other topics. As I made my joke I could feel a peculiar gaze on my back from Koenji, no doubt questioning what I said. Ah yes, Rimuru gur. Clears throat. Rimuru boy here was a nice acquaintance and a person worthy to be my associate. But Rimuru boy, you seem to have a visitor. The old hag is here. Aha. Koenji, you don't mean that. Shut up, narcissistic Tarzan. I now knew who that gaze I felt earlier came from. Looking to the door, it was confirmed as I saw Fuka leaning on the doorway, she had one hand on her hips as he pulled on her hair with the other and cast her gaze down slightly but not to the ground but more of looking down on someone in disappointment. She was wearing a black button-up in place of the usual white one and wore a dark blue pussy bow which contrasted nicely with her overall looks, and to top it off she wore long black tights. Oh, hey Fuka, it's been a minute. I planned to come find you after Visi. Rimuru. Fuka looked at me with a slight glare telling me to come over to her. She usually is extremely shameless and carefree but right now she was slightly annoyed, bored, and had a feeling of anticipation. Ha. Hi, I'm coming Fuka. I came here to say hi to Kyo and Koenji, that's all. Ah, Koenji. Kyo don't give my number to anyone at all. They have to ask me if they want it. Furthermore, if you approach Kyo just to get close to me, I'll make your life hell. Goodbye. Ah Harada, you seem cool. If you want my contact info you can ask Kyo, but the same rule would apply to you. Waving goodbye I walked towards Fuka but I was stopped as we planned to turn away. Hi, I'm Kus. No. At the same time Fuka and I both turned to the person who stopped us, or more likely me, which turned out to be Kushida. I could tell immediately from her voice and Fuka was refusing for me. This girl really needs to make up her mind. I swear I can't get her sometimes. But that does make it interesting. What? The girl looked at me astonished as I refused to even bother hearing her out. I said no. I already know what you're asking. You want my contact info and the answer is no. It will also continue to be no as I don't associate with actors. I am wholly aware of what I said during my speech but I have no intention of giving some people the benefit of the doubt under certain circumstances and you are under one of them. A close friend of mine went to your middle school if that tells you anything, and I don't like people of that character in the slightest. When I finished speaking she looked at me as if all light had left her eyes, like her whole world collapsed, and I didn't care in the slightest. I will not give you my contact information. I don't give my contact information to people I cannot 1 trust or 2 cannot be themselves. So if you want it you're going to have to be true to who you really are and gain my trust, otherwise the answer is and will stay as no. Plus relationships built off of lies are doomed to collapse, let that be as a lesson. Turning away from Kusida I nodded to Fuka and we left. I did ask to stop at the other first-year classes as I had to get the contacts of my other acquaintances and look forward to Kyo's reaction to who his old friends were. Stopping by class 1C I saw Shizuko Shuru getting ready to leave and without a word he knew what I wanted and messaged me quickly. Good to see you Rimuru. Make a group chat with the 4 of us. I need to get some food, I'm hungry and want to explore. I'm on it. Let's hang out soon. It's nice to see you again Shuru. After a minute I arrived at class 1B and saw that only 2 students left but the person I was looking for was waiting by the doorway. She waved to me and smiled lightly before we wordlessly exchanged numbers just as I had with Shuru. Sorry for leaving so fast, Rimuru. I learned another girl in my class had the same given name as me. She is also coincidentally my seatmate. I look forward to hanging out as a group finally. Her name was Himeno Yuki. She was the only person I could really relate to off the bat, but I still introduced myself. It's good to see you again too, Yuki. I hope your sister and parents have been doing well since I last saw you all. I'm going to make a group chat with the 4 of us. But good job on introducing yourself. I can see your class is very friendly, to say the least. Don't force yourself to do anything but talk soon. After meeting up with Yuki and Shuru I quickly made a group chat with Yuki, Shuru, Kyo, and myself. They both probably intend to surprise Kyo by randomly popping up at his dorm room before messaging him knowing them. So Fuka, thank you for accompanying me. How have you been? It's been a while. I looked to my left as I stepped out of the school building and began to walk in the direction of a market I had seen earlier. I hadn't seen Fuka in a year but she felt so different yet almost the same. She still had that carefree borderline narcissistic attitude and she spoke in a confident, clear tone. Her voice was entrancing as I listened to her speak, almost as if the rest of the world disappeared in the moments she spoke. Her beautiful long platinum blonde hair flowed calmly through the breeze as she wore her signature metal headband while her bangs were swept to the side slightly. Her crimson eyes still pierced through the light as she gazed at me out the corner of her eyes curiously, those same eyes still yearning for more entertainment and to have something to gaze upon at her discretion. She smirked slightly and smugly before she opened her mouth to speak. Of course it wasn't the most boring while you were gone. I had a few sources of entertainment but none compared to the entertainment you bring. Even though it has only been less than an hour, you already gave me enough to satisfy me for a few days, especially with the speech and the recommendation you gave today. You kept your word and got in, but it seems you brought some people with you. I hope that they, like you, can entertain me. You heard my speech and you saw me reprimand that student in my class, huh? Why am I not surprised? You really are a free bird in that regard. Even if you have somewhere to be, your entertainment comes first, huh? But as for if they will entertain you, I wouldn't be too hopeful, but only because they would most likely avoid actions that entertain you. Well, that's too bad. Guess you're going to have to entertain me yourself. Fuka looked at me and laughed a bit as she saw me sigh at the notion of being her only source of entertainment. Well, guess it'll be like before you left for ANHS, just on a different playing field and scale. I look forward to you entertaining me as I will you, Fuka. Oh, is that a proposal I heard now? Take it as you will. I am more than willing to put you in your place if you want me to do so badly. You think you'd put me in my place, Rimuru? I'm not too sure about that. I think you'd be the submissive one. I'm sure I'd be putting you in your place. Wouldn't you agree? I wouldn't be so sure, Fuka. You talk about a big game, but I only see it ending like our first meeting. You thought you had the upper hand and then me putting you down. Why don't we test this theory we argued on for years now? Ho! You're getting cocky now, aren't we? Well, I like it that way. It fits you. But once again, not sure how I feel. Maybe you're just not big enough. Why don't we test this theory of yours, him? I'm more than willing to prove you wrong anytime, any day. As much as I'd like to take you up on that offer, I'm more interested in making you squirm and beg for it. I wouldn't mind seeing someone as confident as you at my beck and call. I could say the same to you, Fuka-chan. A blushing red face or an embarrassed face fit you really nicely. It's too bad, really. I'm all this and you still never try anything. Are you perhaps not into men? I could say the same to you. I'm all this and you've never tried anything. Are you not into women? I'm straight. We both spoke in unison and looked at each other before stifling out a laugh. It was nice to see Fuka again. I missed this atmosphere. I think you want to be taught by your senpai a lesson, my dear Kohai. I'm sure my senpai wants to be taught a lesson by her Kohai. Fuka really is an interesting person. She really couldn't care less if someone hears this conversation. It feels like a normal male conversation, except with the added fact that she is a female and I am attracted to females as she is to males. Well, more like people who she deems worthy. She really is confusing.